Hey everybody, welcome to our final Talking Vandals segment. And no, we are not talking about men's hoops. We are talking about the football season that was for the Vandals. A whole lot to summarize and recap. We're, of course, filming this quite a few weeks after the last game. We want to make sure we get everything kind of settled. We can look a little bit ahead to next season, but we're going to definitely take a look back at what the season was for Idaho. Noah Schmick alongside the voice of the Idaho Vandals, Dennis Patchin. Dennis, thanks so much for being here. We have a lot to go through. Of course, 4-8 season for the Vandals, 2-6 in Big Sky play. Definitely not up to what the fans were thinking of when it came to postseason, but I guess where do we start? We have a whole lot to talk about.
I think that there was a lot of optimism going into this season, and at the same time, there were opportunities that this team did not take advantage of. And if you want to dial it back to the very first game against Washington State, they're down 3 late in the game, get a big turnover, and can't cash in, only get the field goal instead of the touchdown. Washington State drives to the field. That kind of is a microcosm of this season. The Vandals played well in times in games and didn't play well at other times. In times in games, their offense was great and their defense was awful. And the other time, their defense was lights out and they couldn't get anything done offensively. And I think a combination of that and then Joshua Wood getting hurt, missing 2 games, I don't know if they beat Northern Colorado with him, but they certainly would have beaten Eastern Washington if he plays in that game. Because remember, they had to use Rocco Koch, who went 0 for 6 in the quarter, and they really got in trouble there. And the other thing is they were hurt in multiple places. Running back, they lost Art Williams halfway through the season. They lost Eli Cummings before the season, and then during the season, Nate Thomas did not play up to expectations. They had 3 of their top 4 receivers missed all the season or part of the season. And then the defensive front wasn't as good as everybody thought it was going to be. What we saw in the Cougar game, if that's the only game you watched, if you're a non-Vandal fan, you think to yourself, what happened to these guys? And then you go look at the Northern Colorado game defensively, look at the San Jose State game defensively. There was all kinds of problems. So, I mean, it's, growing pains, new coach, new coaching staff, new players. Some of the guys they brought in on defense in the transfer portal didn't seem to work out as what they had hoped to do. So I think a lot of things. I think 4-8, maybe more importantly 2-6 in the conference, that's disappointing. But you got to remember, they lost a lot of guys. Thomas Ford really didn't be able to recruit many new guys. He got some guys. But when he took over, Jason Eck took 2/3 of the class that he had signed to New Mexico. Because you got to remember, when Eck left, he left after the signing day, taking those guys with him. So all kinds of things that piled up. The offense struggled at times, and I don't know if that was the play calling of Matt Linehan, who's been replaced, or if it was just, it just wasn't clicking, if that makes any sense. And one of the biggest things that this team didn't have, I'm sorry to be long-winded in this, but one of the things they didn't have was consistency. They weren't consistent from week to week. Heck, both sides of the football weren't consistent from half to half, and you can't have that. So we'll see. The class they signed, and I know we're going to get into this, may have been the best class on paper that Idaho has ever signed under any coach.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a Vandal fan, you can be disappointed, but I think if you're looking ahead to next year, there's some optimism there.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up perfectly. I mean, I've got a whole thing full of notes. I'll tell you what. I wrote down every game, and you get that 4-game loss, the skid when, of course, Wood gets hurt after that in that Montana game.
Correct.
The 4-game skid happens, and then you get the win against Portland State that looked like, all right, things might kind of turn around. The biggest thing about this team, too, is they were always in it. Every loss, besides, I think that Idaho State game, they were within 1 to 2 possessions of, maybe having a few more wins and having a chance at the playoffs.
Right,
too.
even that Montana game in the second half, a couple different times they were within, one time it was 8, one time it was 9. I mean, an opportunity, and they just couldn't get a stop on defense. The Idaho State game was the one that at the end of the season, I don't know what happened. That was uncharacteristic of many Vandal teams that we saw that played this year and certainly in the past years. And I think that was a disappointment to not only the people outside the program, fans, boosters, was inside the program. It's like how we just kind of didn't come out and show up a little bit. So I think that's kind of why there was some disappointment at the end of the season. You lose to Eastern, you lose to Montana, you lose to Idaho State. You lost 3 games to people in your backyard, people that you're going to go up recruiting against. So I think that was disappointing.
And Dennis, let me ask you this question, because I do think when we found out Matt Linehan, I think, was that during the UC Davis game when he was kind of demoted from his offensive coordinator position?
Yes.
It kind of all came together maybe at that Idaho State game. I know they still had, Tyler Pau up there and stuff. But, I mean, you part ways with Linehan. You part ways with your running backs coach, your offensive line coach, and then
No, defensive line coach.
Defensive line
Yes.
coach, sorry. And then, of course, we just found out Court Dennison is also going to be leaving, which we didn't know that was going to be. But, I mean, was it starting to snowball at the end?
I don't know if it was or not. I think that there was, to clarify, Matt Linehan was not the now he's still the quarterback's coach, but he was not the offensive coordinator or was not the one calling the plays the last 2 weeks of the season. So it was the Sac State game and it was the Idaho State game where he didn't call the plays. I know that there was I don't know what the word I need to say. There wasn't happy with the way things were going, the head coach, or if it was just kind of they were trying to do, and I honestly think they were trying to do something different just to kind of shake things up, and I think it went the opposite way. Now, you can look at the Sac State game and say they should have won that game. There was that horrible call in that game that cost the Vandals, the essence, the win. But again, don't give up a 4th and 14 on the play before that's the bad call. So I mean, there were a lot of things. I think that that if you're going to replace your offensive coordinator, you're probably not happy with how things are going. You replaced him, you replaced the running backs coach. So now that's 2 of the elements on your offensive side of the football that you replaced. Defensive line coach, Tavita Finau, was replaced. And I think that was a disappointment, the production of that unit. I think a lot of people, me included, thought that the best unit on this football team was the defensive front, better than the offensive line, which turned out to be pretty good. And they had moments, but really didn't get the pass rush they needed, some of those things. And let's be honest, Court Dennison was not removed from his job. He left to take another opportunity. So now you're going to come back in now this season coming up. And you know what? Now you got a new offensive coordinator, you got a new defensive coordinator. One of the things that Jason Eck when Jason Eck left and Thomas Ford came in is Thomas Ford kept a lot of the play calls and what they were running the same. There were some tweaks on different styles of plays, maybe pass the football to certain people more, to the running backs, do some other things, but it was pretty much the same. I don't know, because we don't know who the new offensive coordinator is, will that change, or is this team going to have to go through a complete changeover in the offseason? Same thing on the defensive side of the ball. What Dan Jackson did 2 years ago was not what Court Dennison did last year. So they had to learn some new terminology and do some things. They have a new defensive coordinator come in, and again, we don't know who that's going to be. Are they going to have to change things? So this offseason, once they get everybody into place, the transfer portal is filled and all those things, and the spring football could be incredibly important for this team, maybe even more so important than last year or the year before that.
Yeah, well, let's figuratively and literally turn the page. Okay. So season, we're done with that.
Were you rehearsing that line?
In my head a little bit.
Okay,
yeah, for
right.
sure.
Okay.
I think one of the things. Let's look at. You talked about that recruiting class.
Correct.
And it ended up. I mean, according to all the polls and the website blogs and everything, the Idaho Vandals have, if not the best, FCS recruiting class of high schoolers.
Well, on the 3 signing days,
yes,
when it was over with, they were second in the FCS, first in the Big Sky, because the team that was ahead of them was Sacramento State. Well, 2 days after that came out, Sacramento State lost their head football coach. Half of those guys are out. So this is going to be the team that was number 1 is not anymore because guys are leaving like like rats off a sinking ship. And if that is a metaphor that you say, Dennis, you shouldn't use that talking about Sacramento State, well, sorry, I just did. This is a talented class. Now, you covered college football. You follow college football. I always say on National Letter of Intent Day, when I did the radio talk show, I said, let's not talk about the class they signed today, unless you're Oklahoma, unless you're one of the big schools. Let's talk about the class from 3 years ago and see which guys made an impact, see how many are left, and those kind of things. But on paper, this is the best class that they've signed. They've signed a couple of offensive linemen, and they're going to lose a bunch of offensive linemen after this season. That's important. They signed a couple of running backs. The freshman running back from Texas is the real deal. Okay. They signed 2 quarterbacks that they like a lot. So I don't know how many guys are going to step up and contribute this year, but it is building a base. And if he can follow this class up with next year with another class, then I think Idaho Vandals are in pretty good shape for the future. I think this year is going to depend on the people that are still there and fill in with the transfer portal guys.
Yeah, I went down and I looked, and like you said, on a national signing day, you're like, well, let's look at this class 3 years from now, 4 years from now, and what they're going to do. You look down. We had freshmen, McWilliams, Teeny, Super Alice, Ricks. Now the other thing we also have to think about is transfer portal.
Right.
That will open up on January 2nd. We are, of course, filming this before January 2nd, but we've already seen a few people enter their names or that are planning to enter their names. I think, if you didn't know, 2 of them was Matthias McLean.
Matthias McLean, the young man from Post Falls. Mm-hmm. He will be a big loss.
Yeah.
He was probably their most talented pass rusher and a guy that I think that, when you put a team together, you're hoping he comes back for another year. A couple of quarterbacks left. Rocco Cope. Rocco's a great story, but I don't think he's going to win you games. He's a situational guy. He wants to play somewhere else. Nick Josephek, who got shuffled back behind a bunch of people, he's transferring out, and that's what happens. There are guys you lose that you really don't want to lose, but there are also depth pieces that you lose. And I don't think this is all. Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be some. Corneliuson, the linebacker, Will Corneliuson is out. And you know what? And he looked at it. He was the leading tackler in junior college as a sophomore in the nation. He comes here and he plays behind Dylan Lane, Isaiah King, and Cruz Hepburn. And Cruz was probably where he lost his minutes. I don't know if Corneliuson was going to play much anyway. And, that happened actually before Court Dennison announced that he was leaving. So you're going to see some of those guys. And there are guys that are in the portal. There are guys who have announced they're leaving, but there are guys that will put their name in the portal when it opens. I think January 3rd, when that thing opens, it's going to be like the door at a hotel. We just keep revolving back and forth.
But that's the new age of college football.
It is because guys want to play. And now it's way easier to transfer if they're not playing. Guys also now want to get paid, and it's way easier to do that as well. You think about all the guys forget the guys that Eck took to New Mexico last year. They lost Dallas Afalava to Wake Forest. They lost Aiden Knappich to Illinois. They lost multiple guys to big-time programs. They lost Mark Camper, went to Wisconsin, finally wound up at Cal. Jordan Dwyer left and went to TCU, got $600,000.
Yeah, that's.
If a kid comes to you and says, Coach, I'm leaving, I'm going in the portal because somebody's going to pay me $600,000, you drive him to his house, you help him pack up his stuff, and you make sure he's out of town the next day. You can't. I don't understand how people are trying to convince people. And I know college fans that are my age or a little bit younger. This sucks. I hate this. But this is where we live now. Yeah. And if you got a good guy and you can't pay him, he's gonna leave.
Yeah. Well, and another part to all this too, head coach Thomas Ford Jr. being a young guy, he understands this. It's not a Nick Saban or someone who is used to trying to get through the recruiting class, trying to make sure they stay for all 4 years. That there are going to be people that leave, and it's just one of those things. It's it's tough, but it's also the new age of I want to play and I want to get to this level. So
there's guys who want to play that'll leave because they don't. There's guys who want to get paid, they're going to leave because of that as well.
How big is it for the Vandals to get those defensive coordinator in place so that it's got to be before the transfer portal, you would hope. Right?
I would think. What's the day? Recording this on the December 14th?
14th, yeah.
Okay, I would expect that before Christmas.
Okay.
I would expect in the next week. Now, I don't know anything. I'm just guessing because of what you have said.
Yeah.
You're going to want coordinators in on
Exactly.
the decision-making of guys that they bring into the transfer portal. Yeah. So I would think. Plus, the other thing is there are other openings on the staff. I mean, on the offensive side of the football, you're going to need a quarterback coach, unless the OC is a quarterback coach. You're going to need a running backs coach. I think you'll probably have the coordinator would have some input on some of those guys that are there. The defensive side of the football, there's a defensive line opening. So, I don't know how that all works, but I would think certainly an offensive coordinator sooner than a DC, because we just knew about the DC. We just found that out. So, at least the Vandals knew, 2 weeks before the season was over, they were going to need a new offensive coordinator. So,
what's the biggest? I don't have this on my notes. My notes are done. Sorry, that's all I had. I'm wondering though. What's the biggest need for the Vandals? Their defense ranked 4th in the Big Sky with points per game, but you lose a lot of the veterans in that front 7 for the defense. Joshua Wood, if he obviously sticks around, doesn't get poached to go anywhere else. You have a quarterback in place. Is there a strength or is there a need? Does Coach Ford need to go out and get a transfer portal from a portal guy?
Let's start on the defensive side of the football. Okay. You lost Sam Brown. Mm-hmm. You lost Zach Krotzer. You've lost Matthias McLean. You've lost a couple of other guys, Parham and Maurice from Washington, the former Husky. Those guys are all gone. And McLean's the only one that had eligibility left. So, you knew you had to go out there. They did sign some guys late in the season. Freddie Lujan, who's a transfer from Portland State, came in. He's going to step in and play a pretty good role for this team. Jaskowiak will be another guy in there. I think you're going to probably have to go out and get a pass rusher or 2.
Yeah.
You might have to get another interior defensive line. But then again, we don't know who's going to step up from inside this team. So, there are guys that they can put in there as well. I think the linebackers, you're probably going to have to go out and get somebody in the Isaiah King role. And then in the secondary, you're probably going to have to get 2 corners. Mm-hmm. And you're certainly going to have to get 2 corners if Caleb Ricks doesn't come back. He was named to the freshman All-America team. He was their best corner. He was one of the best corners in the Big Sky Conference. So, if he's gone, you really don't have anybody else. Deuce Blenman graduated. Aaron Kinsey, I don't know what his status is. He got a knee injury in the 4th game of the season. Will he be able to come back? He certainly is probably not going to be ready for spring football. Will he be able to come back? So there are some pieces that you're going to need to find out. I think they're pretty good at safety. You may go out and get, because all the safeties, and this is assuming that everybody's coming back. Offensive side of the football, you think Joshua Wood is probably coming back, but now Jack Wagner would be the backup. Teeny would be the backup, and Holden B., who did not take a snap again, are the quarterbacks that are there. Do you want to go out and get one more guy? I don't know. You're probably going to have to get at least 1 running back, if not 2. You might go out and get a senior transfer. You go get a JC guy, and then you have the young freshman from Texas. The receivers should be okay. Ryan Jesiaro should be back as a redshirt sophomore. Junior Alexander, who got hurt, the transfer from Montana State, who would have been the #1 receiver this season, didn't play a snap. He should be back to play. So there's all kinds of things in that. So, there are pieces. I think the offensive line, you're going to have to replace Nate Azzopardi, but he's the only guy right now. And they did sign a junior college tight end who they like a lot because you lost Jake Cox in that. So, there are some there. I think it's more defensively than it is offensively is where you're going to have the transfer portal, which is where they didn't do very good last year, was on that side of the football in the portal. The guys that they brought in really didn't have an impact.
Obviously, we don't know the schedule yet for next season, but
we do.
I think. Well, yes, they do. But the big thing is, what I was more leaning towards is something you said earlier when we were talking about losing your rivalry games. You got to win your rivalry games you
got to win your back. You got to win the people you're recruiting against.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got to. And here's the thing: is so you're going to go to Cheney. You're going to go to Pocatello. No, they played Cheney. They played a bit at Cheney. So you'll have Eastern at home. You'll have Idaho State on the road. You got to go back to Montana. You have to play them for the second year in a row on the road because they changed everything. Also, there's 9 conference games this season, so there's only 3 non-conference games. The Vandals probably are going to play on 0 week against Cal Poly, so there'll be a league game. But Cal Poly will have a new coach. Your second game is against Utah. Utah is going to have a new coach. So, I mean, it will be interesting. Portland State has got a new guy. Cal Poly will have a new guy. Sac State, Sac State's out of the league, but they would have a new guy. Weber State will have a new guy. So there's all kinds of changes in this conference. It'll be interesting to see how everybody shakes out. I will be interested, for me, as the guy doing the games, the 2 most interesting things to me right now are, even more for the portal, who's the offensive coordinator, who's the defensive coordinator, and can they get this team to play consistently throughout the season or throughout a game?
It's going to be interesting also to see, because we're, like I said, recording this mid-December.
December 14th, yeah.
Montana and Montana State both won. They will be playing against each other in the FCS semifinals to see who, what Montana team, because North Dakota State's out, can actually go and win a national championship finally.
Which Montana team will win the national championship?
Exactly.
Because I'm sorry, Illinois State and Villanova fans, and none of them you're watching this because you don't care about Idaho. You're not winning the national championship. I think the game in Bozeman coming up, is the national championship game. If I wasn't doing a basketball game that day, I would drive to Bozeman to see that game. I think this, we talk about the Brawl of the Wild being one of the top, I think one of the top 10 college rivalry games in all the country, no matter what level. This trumps it.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
It's to win. To me, it's to win the national championship. Yeah. And the best thing about it is, if you're either team, not only can I win the national championship, I beat my rival on the way to that game to keep them from winning the championship.
Yeah, no, and I spent 2 years in Bozeman. I'll tell you what, Bozeman and Missoula, they do not like each other at all.
No,
it's awesome.
We work in Washington, and there's Cougar Husky rivalry is a great one, but it really isn't anymore.
No,
because they're not in the same league. Oregon State isn't that way. Idaho State, Boise State, it's a triangle. I mean, and there are great rivalries all over, no matter where you go. In Montana, I swear, you worked there 2 years, I worked there 2 years, a million years ago. You're either a cat or you're a grizzly, and there's no in between.
The whole reason I wanted to say that is because it looks like both their coaches will be staying unless something happens. Of course, there were all the rumors about, is Brent Fegan going to go to over here? Is Bobby Hauck going to try and do something? So we'll have to see how this all ends up. It's going to be an interesting season next year for the Idaho Vandals. So we're excited, and we'll have to see if we start this back up next year. We'll have a lot more to talk about.
Well, if not, Noah and I will do it out of the street corner. You can just drive by, and we'll do that. So.
Well, as always, thanks so much for watching. And Dennis, I have to say, thank you for being here. This would not have been as easy for me doing this by myself, having the great analyst of Dennis Patchin.
I appreciate that. It's I always like to talk sports. I always like to talk about, certainly the teams I'm covering. And 4-8, but I still had a lot of fun this year.
Exactly.
So I mean, the results weren't there, but you get around a team, you get to see the young people, because I can call them all young now because they're all young, the young coaches and the young players and the staff and the whole thing that they're working to. And I know there was a lot of disappointment out there, but I think the Vandals are in good hands, and I don't think we'll have a 4-8 season.
Yeah, I think the Vandals are in good hands. Can't wait for next year, and until next year, we'll see you then.